On Jikoni Magic today we're making chicken curry using African Kienyeji chicken. This is the chicken that is let out in the morning, left to roam the countryside before coming back to roost in the evening. And as a result, the meat develops an intense flavor, plus it's tougher because the muscles are more developed from all the exercising the chicken gets. So on to our ingredients. This is my spice mix. I took whole spices, threw them into my coffee grinder, and ground them to this fine powder that you're seeing. If you want to get the complete list of the spices that I used, go to my website jikonimagic.com and you'll be sorted. Not only will you get the full list of ingredients, but you're also going to get the entire recipe plus extra tips on how to have a successful chicken curry. This is my Kienyeji chicken already divided into different parts, and I've made incisions into my chicken pieces. This is to allow the spice mix to better penetrate into the chicken, hence packing more flavor. I also have my chicken liver, the heart, and the gizzard. All these are going to be cooked in one pot. And so the next step was to add my spice mix. Massaged it into my chicken pieces, making sure that it got into the incisions that I had made. I took my time in doing this because I wanted all the chicken pieces to be coated thoroughly. So once I was satisfied that my chicken pieces were very well coated with this spice mixture, I took a cling wrap, covered my bowl, put it in the refrigerator overnight, and cooked the chicken curry the following day. This is my homemade tomato puree. I will soon have a video out on how I made this puree. It's very good for curries because it gives a very smooth finish. My maziwa mala or fermented milk. You can also use yogurt if you wish. My dania or coriander, hoho or green bell pepper. 2 green chilies. You can use more if you want. In this instance, I just needed them for that flavor that they impart. My ginger garlic paste. My potatoes that I've cut into this size. You can have your potatoes bigger or smaller than this. It's really up to you. These are my onions that I've separated. They're in 2 parts. There's a smaller portion and then there's a larger portion. I'm going to explain why I've done this later on in the video. Of course, my spice mixture that remained from yesterday, I'm going to be using it today. And these are fenugreek leaves, totally optional, but in case you want to use them and you're in Kenya, you can go to Ngara Market and you'll find them in plenty in the Indian stores. My tomato paste, this is a 100-gram tin. I used all of it. And finally, honey to cut through all the tartness of the tomatoes from the paste and the puree. And so I started cooking by frying my onions in oil that was heated to medium heat until they turned a golden brown color. You have to be very careful in frying your onions because there's a very fine line between golden brown onions and burnt onions. So once you see them starting to turn brown, keep a very close eye on them and pull them out immediately before they burn, because once they burn, the dish is ruined. It becomes very, very bitter. Then next, in the same oil, I fried my potatoes until they turned a very nice golden brown color. Now bear in mind that due to the size of my potatoes, approximately 1-inch sized cubes, they cooked through by the time they were turning golden brown. But if you end up chopping your potatoes bigger than mine, or if you're the kind of person who prefers bigger potatoes than mine, they might not be cooked through. So use your judgment and assess. If they're not cooked through, then finish them off later on in the curry. But as it is right now, mine are perfectly cooked. So I got them out of the oil and drained them on a kitchen paper. And then lastly, in the same oil, I fried my chicken. I made sure that the oil was not too hot. Now, why did I do this? Because if the oil is too hot, first of all, it's a health hazard to you. It's going to splatter so much, it's going to burn you. Now, apart from burning you, the other thing that will happen is your chicken will burn so fast, it will end up turning black and very bitter. All what we want is to brown the chicken and for the spices to stick on it so that when it's being cooked in the curry, the spices don't wash off or the spices don't all end up in the curry itself. We want to have spices that are stuck on the chicken itself, and this will intensify its flavor. So make sure not to overcrowd the pan because the temperatures will drop and the chicken will end up absorbing too much oil. So once the chicken pieces turned to the nice golden brown color I was aiming for, I took them out of the oil and drained them on a kitchen paper, ready for the next step. Now remember in my intro I talked about kienyeji chicken being tougher than the broiler chicken? Yeah. So now, thing is, you cannot cook your kienyeji chicken in 20 minutes. It will not be cooked. It will still be very tough. Now you have two options. You can either simmer it for about 45 minutes to about an hour, depending on your chicken, or you can go the pressure cooker way like I'm doing here to cut down on the cooking time. Now in the pressure cooker, I ended up cooking my chicken for 15 minutes only. So after putting the chicken in the pressure cooker, I seasoned with salt to taste. I added about 300 ml of water to my pressure cooker. Now this was just enough to create a steam effect without boiling the meat. So meanwhile, as my chicken was cooking on the other burner, I scooped the same oil that I had fried my onions, potatoes and chicken in and used it to cook my curry. So once my oil had come to temperature, I took the remaining onions, cooked them for about 4 minutes, I think, until they just turned golden brown. Then I added my ginger and garlic paste. Cooked it off for about a minute just to release that very nice fragrance and aroma that is unique to it. This was followed by me adding my tomato puree, followed by my maziwa mala or fermented milk. Now I'm aware that this might seem like a lot of mala for some people. Feel free to adjust these quantities to suit your individual needs. I like my chicken curry having a lot of mala in it. So once everything was well mixed together, I added my spice mix, mixed it in. These are my green chilies. I slit them lengthwise and put them in my curry. If you want, you can chop them into small pieces. And then I added just enough salt to taste, covered and left the curry to simmer for about 3 minutes or so before adding my tomato paste. Broke it down and made sure that it was all mixed very well into my curry, and then I added just enough water to loosen this curry because I felt like it was on the thicker side and it was going to start burning before cooking, and this was going to alter the taste of my curry, which I did not want to happen. So by this time my kienyeji chicken had already cooked in the pressure cooker, so I took the pieces and added them to my curry. You can tell that they were really cooked because the meat has pulled away from the bone, and this is when I also added my liver and gizzard. Now these two pieces cook very quickly. They take approximately 7 to 8 minutes to be cooked completely. So there is no fear of you ending up sick because you've eaten raw chicken. But if you want to cook them longer, you can cook them as your curry is simmering before adding your chicken pieces. I noticed that my curry was on the thicker side and I needed to loosen it. So I decided this time around to add the stock from the chicken that I had been boiling. Remember, we're using Kienyeji chicken and it is so packed with flavor. You cannot afford to waste any of this goodness. So I added just enough to almost cover the pieces and then covered. Left everything to simmer for about 5 minutes for the flavors to penetrate into my chicken. So this is when I added my fried onions, potatoes, hoho, and honey. Now, if you're allergic to honey, you can use granulated white sugar or brown sugar. The aim here is to cut through the tartness that comes from using the tomato paste and the tomato puree. Then I used my mwiko and gently mixed everything to avoid breaking my potatoes and the chicken. At this point, I covered and simmered my chicken curry for about 2 minutes. Finally, I added my fenugreek leaves and my dania. Now the thing is, fenugreek leaves are totally optional. You don't have to add them, but trust you me, once you add them, you're going to notice a very huge difference in your food because they elevate your flavors to another level. At this point, I did not cover my chicken curry again. I just simmered it while uncovered and served it. So here's my chicken curry finally. It was very balanced in its mixture of flavors. It was sweet yet tangy. It had a bit of tartness. It was also spicy with a bit of heat from the chili that I had added, and also the fenugreek leaves that elevated it to a whole new level. So I served mine like a real Kenyan with my kienyeji vegetables and chapati. Until next time, when we meet again on Jikoni Magic for yet another exciting recipe, goodbye.